and welcome to RedEye Review. My name is Zeara Robbinson, and today we will be reviewing neo-soul artist D'Angelo. His Voodoo album is one of my favorites. It turned 25 this January and is one of the artist's best bodies of work. Michael Eugene Archer, also known as D'Angelo, was born in Richmond, Virginia in 1974. Growing up, D'Angelo's youth was heavily influenced by the Black church and gospel music. He learned to play piano at 3, and music was a key part of his life. Though his family was religious, they encouraged him to listen to the works of Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Jimi Hendrix, Sly Stone, Prince, and many more Black jazz funk vocalists. Motown bass lines are apparent in D'Angelo's sophomore album, Voodoo. He studied the records of the greats to inspire his works and brought what he learned from them to the church's children's choir that he sang in from ages 5 to 13. Once his teenage years began, he started working on his own groups, where he began to direct his grandfather's church choir. At 19, he was signed to Midnight Songs label, where his talents were used to direct and produce other bands. Luther Archer, D'Angelo's older brother, also played a significant role in the forming of D'Angelo's style of music, both in creativity and his music taste. Archer put his brother onto 70s records and even helped him form a band that he wanted to start when he was 9 years old. Archer states that when they were growing up, the radio stations were pretty segregated. In the 80s, there were no Black FM radio stations in Richmond. Despite this fact, the family would not let that hold them back from exposing their children to a wide variety of music. D'Angelo scoured the records his family had, ensuring his music would be reminiscent of his idols. For example, his album Brown Sugar was a reference to Prince's eccentric music production and male femininity. People like Bob Power, who produced artists like Lauryn Hill, would describe him as the next Sam Cooke or Donny Hathaway, who were both notable artists in the 70s and 60s. Once D'Angelo was old enough to live on his own, he began to work with other producers and artists. He was involved with a group called the Soulquarians, who all shared the same type of work ethic until they ultimately broke up after Jay Dilla's death, a fellow member, in 2006. Dave Chappelle's Block Party documentary shows the inside of their very last show together as a collective of artists. When D'Angelo released his Voodoo album, hip-hop was facing a post-Y2K era. Many artists were trying to appeal to larger audiences, which veered them away from making experimental tracks. D'Angelo, on the other hand, pledged to only release music that was done right and to the best standard he could make. My personal favorite experimental track on this album is Devil's Pie. In D'Angelo's CD pamphlet, he states that they want him to drop an album that uses all the same formulas so that audiences don't have to grow. Even sampling songs that people are already familiar with so that the listeners don't have to go through the hard work of getting used to a new melody or bass line. The fact that he said that on his album for other artists to see is very powerful. The environment through hip-hop during the 2000s is said to be very tense, so speaking out against it was very bold and unusual. His opinion of hip-hop was critical because of how much he loved the people who make it and the genre itself. I think the state of hip-hop music today is that a lot of artists are too reliant on what has already been done in the culture. I see this with artists like Kendrick Lamar sampling If This World Were Mine by Luther Vandross, and Doechii using an instrumental sample from Somebody That I Used to Know by Gotti in her song Anxiety. In the case of D'Angelo, it's productive to get inspiration from other artists to pay homage, but once it's reusing the same sample, it gets old. We need to improve transformative artists in this decade. I brought up current artists who I personally think aren't being as transformative as they can be in their music. It's not to say that the music has no value or that it's not good. Everyone has their own taste. I just think those tastes should have an option to be fresh and give listeners an experience that they couldn't get anywhere else. I believe once something's been done, it does not need to be done again and again. Music can get trapped in a cycle of getting chewed and spit out into another mouth of an artist. Music can get trapped in a cycle of getting chewed up and spit into other artists, making it easy to get sick of the initial media and the new one. The philosophy of D'Angelo is not only to be involved in the long, tedious process of making your own music, but to have intent behind it. D'Angelo, even though he is in a sort of retirement as of 2014, has inspired a generation of artists like Frank Ocean, Childish Gambino, Usher, Erykah Badu, and more. Thank you.